Welcome to Daily English Podcast, where stories teach and words inspire. Today, we're going to talk about something that quietly steals your strength. It doesn't make loud noise. It doesn't knock down your door, but it walks into your mind and makes you believe you're less than you are. It's called a weak mindset. And in this episode, we're going to uncover 5 signs that show you may be stuck in it, and more importantly, how to escape. I'll guide you through real-life stories, soft reflections, and strong lessons. Everything is simple. Everything is emotional. Everything is for you. Because once you see it, you can change it. Let's begin. There was a girl named Hana. She worked in a small cafe near the corner of a quiet street. The cafe wasn't famous. It didn't have neon lights or Instagram filters. But it had something warm, something peaceful. The smell of fresh bread, the sound of soft jazz, the slow rhythm of life. And Hana loved being there. She wasn't the owner. She wasn't the manager. She was just a part-time server. But she showed up every morning with her apron tied tight and her notebook ready. Not because she had to, but because she cared. She wanted people to feel comfortable, to feel heard, to feel okay. But somewhere along the way, Hana started forgetting about someone very important. Herself. It began with little things, like when a customer spoke too fast, and she couldn't catch their order. She smiled nervously and said, "Sorry, can you repeat that?" Then one day, a co-worker bumped into her on accident, and she said, "Sorry." Another day, someone spilled coffee on the counter, and without thinking, she said sorry again. It became automatic. She said it when she was late by 2 minutes. She said it when someone opened the door first. She even said sorry when someone stepped on her shoe. Hana became the girl who apologized for everything. One rainy Tuesday, her manager, a kind older woman named Auntie Kim, pulled her aside after work. They sat at the back of the shop with 2 cups of hot tea. Auntie Kim said softly, "Hana, why are you always sorry?" Hana stared into her cup. She didn't know what to say. Finally, she whispered, "I don't want people to be upset with me." And in that one sentence, her truth came out. She wasn't being polite. She was being afraid. Afraid of bothering others, afraid of being seen as wrong, afraid of taking up too much space. And in her mind, saying sorry was a way to stay safe, to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, to be small enough that no one would dislike her. Can you relate? Maybe you've said sorry too much too. Maybe you've apologized for asking a question, or for needing help, or for speaking your truth. Not because you did something wrong, but because you were afraid of how others might feel. You didn't want to be a burden. You didn't want to sound rude. You didn't want to take up space you didn't think you deserved. But let me tell you something important. You do not need to apologize for your existence. You are allowed to ask. You are allowed to speak. You are allowed to make mistakes. You are allowed to be human. Where does it come from? This over-apologizing habit often begins in childhood. Maybe someone told you, "Be quiet," or "Don't question me," or "You always cause problems." Maybe someone made you feel that love had conditions, that if you weren't perfect, you weren't lovable, that if you caused any trouble, you'd be rejected. So you started playing safe. You became polite to the point of invisibility. You shrank your voice so no one could be angry with you. You said sorry before anyone could say you're wrong. It became a reflex, like blinking, like breathing. But you weren't born that way. You learned it. And now, you can unlearn it. Let's practice a shift together. Right now, try this with me. Instead of saying, "Sorry I'm late," say, "Thank you for waiting," instead of, "Sorry for asking so many questions." Say, "I appreciate your patience while I learn," instead of, "Sorry I didn't understand." Say, "Could you help me understand better?" These small changes don't just change your words, they change your mindset. They teach your brain that you are not always wrong, that your needs matter, that you don't have to shrink to be liked. Let's imagine a dialogue. The old way versus the new way. Old version. "Sorry to bother you. I know you're busy." "Sorry. Can I say something?" "Sorry, I'll just stay quiet." New version. "I appreciate your time. I'd love to share something. Is now a good moment to speak? I value your thoughts and I'd like to add mine too. Can you feel the difference? It's not louder, it's just more self-respecting. Mindset. Tip. Every word you speak is a lesson to your brain. If you speak like you are wrong, your brain will treat you like a mistake. But if you speak like someone who matters, your brain will begin to believe that you do, and you do matter. Your words carry meaning. Your presence has weight. Your feelings are real. Real story. English Learner Version. I once met a student named Lynn. She moved to an English-speaking country for university. In every classroom, she wanted to participate. But every time she raised her hand, she began her question with, "Sorry, my English is bad." She did it so much that even when she gave brilliant answers, the teacher looked surprised. One day, her teacher said gently, "Lynn, stop saying sorry. Your English isn't bad. It's beautiful. And even if it was bad, well, that's how we learn." That moment changed her. From then on, Lynn started her questions with, "May I ask something?" Or, "I'm curious about this point." Not sorry, and her confidence grew fast. Imagine this. You're walking through life with a giant sign around your neck. If the sign says, "I'm always sorry," "I don't belong," that's how people treat you. But if the sign says, "I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm worthy," that's how people begin to respond too. Not because you changed the world, but because you changed your belief. So today, I ask you, how many times have you said sorry this week when what you really meant was, "I'm unsure, I'm afraid, I want to be accepted"? Let's rewrite that. Not with anger, not with pride, but with peace. Speak kindly. Stand gently. And know this: you are allowed to exist without apology. Avoidance of social situations. Let's talk about a man named Ben. Ben was the kind of person everyone liked, from a distance. He was polite, soft-spoken, always on time, always doing the right thing. But he had a secret. He was lonely. Not the kind of lonely you feel when no one is around. The kind of lonely you feel when everyone is around, and you still feel invisible. Ben worked in a small office with about 12 people. They weren't just co-workers, they were friendly, warm, inviting. Every Friday, they'd go out for lunch together. Every birthday, they'd decorate someone's desk. They always said, "Come join us, Ben. It'll be fun." And Ben would smile politely, nod, and say, "Maybe next time." But the truth was, he never meant next time. He meant no. He meant I'm not ready. He meant I'm scared. Ben's weekends were quiet. He would sit by the window, drinking tea, scrolling on his phone, watching other people's lives happen. Weddings, trips, dinners, laughter. He wasn't jealous, he just didn't know how to be part of it. Where did that fear come from? Ben was the quiet kid in school. He had ideas, but he didn't speak up. He had dreams, but he didn't share them. Whenever he did try, someone laughed, or ignored him, or misunderstood, and little by little he learned something. It's safer to stay quiet. So he did. He avoided parties. He skipped group chats. He ate lunch alone. And eventually, that fear became normal. Can you relate? Maybe you've said no to an invitation. Not because you didn't want to go, but because you were afraid you wouldn't belong. Maybe you've stayed quiet in meetings. Not because you had nothing to say, but because you were afraid. Your ideas weren't good enough. Maybe you felt more comfortable behind your phone screen than in a real conversation. If that's you, please know this. You're not broken. You're just protecting yourself. And protection is not weakness. It's just outdated. It once kept you safe, but now it's keeping you small. A story of a soft. Yes, one evening, Ben sat by his window watching people pass by. And a question came to his heart. Is this how I want to keep living? Quiet, safe, hidden. He didn't have a dramatic answer. He didn't cry. He just said softly, "No, I want more." The next Friday, when the invitation came again, "Ben, come join us for lunch." He paused, and for the first time he said, "Okay, I'll come." What happened? He didn't become the star of the group. He didn't crack jokes or dominate the conversation. He just listened. He smiled. He said, "That sounds interesting." He asked, "How did your weekend go?" And that was enough. The room didn't reject him. No one laughed at him. No one said, "What are you doing? Here?" They welcomed him because here's the truth. Most people aren't scary. Your thoughts just make them seem that way. And once Ben saw that, his world started to open. Real story. From English class, I once had an English student named Imran. He was brilliant, always got full marks on writing tests, but during group conversations, he stayed silent. I asked him once, "Imran, why don't you speak?" He looked down and said, "Because I'm afraid if I speak, people will hear my mistakes." That broke my heart. Not because he was wrong, but because he had silenced his own potential. So I told him this: your mistakes are your bridge to connection, not your barrier. Because when you speak imperfectly, people don't reject you. They relate to you. The truth about avoiding people. When we avoid social situations, we often think, "I'll say something wrong. They won't like me. I'll feel awkward." But here's the truth. You probably will feel awkward at first, because anything new feels strange. But awkward is not dangerous. It's just uncomfortable. And the only way to stop feeling awkward is to walk through it again and again and again until it's not awkward anymore. Mindset shift. Avoidance feels like protection, but over time, it becomes isolation, and isolation becomes a prison. You start telling yourself, "I'm just not social. I'm not meant to be part of that group. I don't need anyone." But those aren't facts. Those are defense walls. Walls that keep pain out, but also keep love out. Let's practice gentle exposure. If you struggle with social anxiety or avoidance, try this small plan. Level 1. Reply to a message instead of ignoring it. Level 2. Ask one question in a group, even online. Level 3. Accept an invitation and stay for 15 minutes. Level 4. Share a small story about your day with someone. Level 5. Join a group you've avoided and just observe. Don't force it. Don't fake it. Just practice it. Gently, softly, bravely. Old way. I'll say something stupid. They'll think I'm boring. I'm not good in groups. New way. I'm learning to connect. Even if I'm quiet, I belong. Here. Awkward is okay. I'm still growing. When was the last time you said no out of fear, not choice? What small social step can you take this week? What would happen if you allowed yourself to be seen, just as you are? When you avoid speaking English in front of others, you're not just avoiding grammar. You're avoiding growth. Start with short phrases. Start with eye contact. Start with hello. You don't need to say everything. Just say something. You don't have to be loud. Let's be clear. This is not about becoming the loudest person in the room. It's about not hiding from rooms you want to be in. You don't need to be charming. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. When someone says, join us, and your heart says, I want to, listen to that. Because connection isn't about being interesting, it's about being interested. Ben didn't change overnight, but he changed because he said yes, once, then again and again. And slowly, the heavy coat of fear he wore every day began to fall off. And underneath it, he found someone who had been waiting, someone brave, someone warm, someone real, and that someone is in you too. You don't have to hide. You don't have to wait for confidence to arrive. You just have to show up. Say yes to being seen, even when it feels scary. Because life doesn't happen behind closed doors. It happens in shared spaces with real people, messy moments, and imperfect connections. You belong there. You always did, allowing critics to control. You, Sofia, loved to dance. She wasn't trained. She never went to a fancy academy. She just moved. In the mornings, she would wake up early and play music while brushing her teeth. Her feet tapped, her hips swayed, her fingers floated in the air. It wasn't performance, it was joy. When no one was watching, she was free. No mirrors, no stage, just her and the music. But that freedom didn't last. One day she shared. Sofia recorded a 30-second video. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She didn't use filters. She didn't rehearse. She just pressed record and danced. And for the first time, she posted it online. Not because she wanted likes, but because she wanted to share her joy. And then, the comments came. At first, she smiled, but then she scrolled down. You look weird. This is cringe. You're embarrassing yourself. Stop. Just stop. Each sentence landed like a slap. Her breath caught in her chest. Her heart began to race. She deleted the video, then deleted the app, then stopped dancing. Even in private, the music still played, but she didn't move. She let the voices of strangers build a prison in her mind. Can you relate? Maybe you've shared something before, a photo, a voice message, a dream, a goal, and someone, maybe a stranger, maybe someone close, said something cold, and you started to shrink. You questioned yourself. You replayed the words. You felt exposed, ashamed, stupid. That's how criticism works. Even when it comes from people who don't know you, it sticks. Why do we give so much power to critics? Because deep inside, most of us just want one. thing to be accepted. And when someone criticizes us, especially in a cruel way, it feels like rejection. It feels personal. But here's a truth you need to hold on to. You cannot grow if you let every opinion decide your direction. The psychology of criticism. Our brains are wired for survival. In ancient times, being rejected by your group meant danger. So today, even though we're not in tribes, rejection still feels like a threat. That's why one rude comment can ruin your day, even if 10 people praised you before, but you are no longer a child. You are no longer trapped. You get to choose what enters your heart and what doesn't. Story of Amir. The shy speaker Amir was a soft-spoken university student. He loved public speaking. In theory, he watched TED Talks every night and practiced in the mirror, but when he gave his first class presentation, a classmate smirked and whispered to another, "He sounds nervous." That one sentence haunted Amir for a year. He stopped raising his hand. He avoided presentations. He convinced himself, "I'm just not a speaker." Until one day, his professor asked him a question. "Amir, when will you stop letting one sentence silence your whole voice?" That hit him, because deep inside he knew he had given away the microphone of his life to someone who didn't even care about him. So slowly, Amir took it back. He joined a public speaking club. He spoke in small rooms. He made mistakes, but he kept speaking. And eventually, his voice grew strong. A truth that changes everything. Not every dancer needs an audience. Not every speaker needs applause. Not every artist needs permission. You can love something yet without being perfect. You can express yourself, even if no one claps. And most importantly, you can protect your joy from other people's noise. What Sofia learned, and you can too. One day, months later, Sofia went for a walk in the park. She saw a little girl dancing barefoot in the grass. Her dress twirled in the wind. Her laugh echoed in the sky. She didn't care who was watching. She wasn't performing. She was just happy. And in that moment, Sofia remembered. Joy doesn't need permission. She went home, turned on her favorite song, closed the door, and danced, not for likes, not for approval, for herself. Thought exercise for listeners. Think of something you love doing, but stopped. Was it drawing, singing, speaking English, sharing your thoughts? Now ask, who made you stop? Was it your own doubt? Was it a comment someone made? And now, ask yourself, again, do they deserve to decide what I do with my life? If the answer is no, it's time to take your power back. Mental reframes for criticism instead of, they don't like me. Say, their opinion isn't a mirror of my worth. Instead of, I must be bad at this. Say, I'm learning, and that's powerful. Instead of, maybe I should stop. Say, maybe I should protect what matters to me. Your joy belongs to you. Critics don't know your story. They don't feel your heart. They don't see the courage it took just to try. So don't hand them the keys to your confidence. They didn't earn it. You have. Every time you showed up, every time you tried again, every time you created something, even when afraid. That's courage, and no comment can take that away, unless you let it. Speak this out loud. I release the fear of other people's opinions. I do not need permission to be me. I choose joy. I choose expression. I choose to live, even if no one claps. Real-life language practice. Let's say you're learning English and want to make a video, or write a post, or speak in a group, and someone comments, Your accent is weird. Your grammar is wrong. You sound funny. What should you do? You smile and continue anyway, because the only way to improve is to keep going, and every language learner makes mistakes. Every speaker has an accent. Every beginner feels unsure. But if you stop now, you'll never see what you could become. You are not a puppet. Don't hand over your strings. Critics may speak loudly, but your inner voice is the one that shapes your life. Protect it. Nurture it. Listen to it. You are not here to impress the world. You are here to express what's inside. You, with love, with honesty, with courage. So move, speak, create, shine. Even if someone doesn't clap, because joy doesn't need applause, it just needs permission. And now you have it. You're constantly defensive. Let's talk about a man named David. David was dependable. He came to work early. He triple-checked everything. His emails were always clear. His reports were always neat. People trusted him, but they didn't always feel safe around him, because David had one habit that quietly hurt his growth and his relationships. Whenever someone gave him feedback, even a small suggestion, he froze inside, his chest tightened, his eyes narrowed, his arms folded, and he became defensive. What are you trying to say? One day, a colleague said, "Hey, David, maybe we could format the report this way. It might save us time." David didn't say thank you. He didn't say good idea. Instead, he frowned and replied, "So, you don't like how I do things?" The room went quiet. His colleague shook their head gently and said, "No, that's not what I meant." But it didn't matter, because in David's mind, any suggestion or a silent attack. Can you relate? Maybe someone once gave you a small correction, and you felt insulted. Maybe someone tried to offer help, and you felt they were trying to control you. Maybe someone asked a question, and you felt they were challenging your intelligence. That's defensiveness. Not because you're a bad person, but because deep down your brain learned something painful. If I'm not right, I'm not worthy. Where does defensiveness come from? Let's go back. Often, it starts in childhood, or school, or early jobs. Maybe someone embarrassed you when you made a mistake. Maybe someone said, "How could you not know that? You always mess things up. You're not good enough." And, without realizing it, you made a secret promise to yourself, "I must be perfect. I must never be wrong. I must always be strong." So now, when someone gives feedback, your brain doesn't hear. Here's how to grow. It hears, "You failed again." But that's not the truth. That's just a fear echoing from the past. David's turning point after a team meeting, David's manager asked to see him. She didn't yell. She didn't criticize. She just said, "David, you do excellent work. But when people give ideas, you shut them down. And we need to grow together, not alone." That sentence didn't feel like an attack. It felt like a mirror. David sat in his car for a long time afterward. He didn't drive. He didn't text. He just sat, with those words echoing in his mind. And finally he whispered to himself, "Am I defending my pride or destroying my progress?" The shift begins. The next week, something small happened. Another teammate said, "Hey, David, I saw a tool that could make this process easier." And this time, David didn't fold his arms. He didn't interrupt. He didn't roll his eyes. He took a breath and said, "Interesting. Let me think about that." That sentence, just 7 words, changed everything. The room felt lighter. The teammates smiled. The conversation stayed open. Why does this matter? Because when you're always defending yourself, you miss opportunities to learn. You miss connection. You miss growth. You miss peace. And the people around you? They start walking on eggshells. They stop sharing ideas. They feel like they can't be honest. Not because you're mean, but because your walls are too thick. Defensiveness versus openness. Defensiveness says, openness says, you're attacking me. You're helping me improve. You don't like me. You care enough to give input. I have to prove I'm right. I'm willing to understand more. Elena was an English learner. She practiced speaking every day. She was disciplined. But when her tutor corrected her pronunciation, even kindly, she felt insulted. She would say things like, "But I read it was pronounced this way." I already know that. I was just tired today. And every correction became a battlefield. Until one day her tutor asked, "Do you want to protect your pride or protect your progress?" That changed her. From then on, when corrections came, she whispered to herself, "I'm not being attacked, I'm being taught." And that mindset opened the door to fluency. Inner dialogue. Practice, old mindset. They're judging me. I'm not good enough. I need to defend myself. New. Mindset, they're helping me. I'm still learning, and that's okay. I can listen and still feel strong. Journal reflection for listeners. Ask yourself, when was the last time you got defensive? What did you feel underneath the reaction? Was it fear? Shame? Embarrassment? What would have happened if you just said, "Thank you, I'll consider that"? You don't lose power by listening. Let's clear up a myth. Listening doesn't mean agreeing. You can hear someone out without giving up your values. You can accept feedback without believing you're not enough. You can say, "That's an interesting point," and still walk your own path. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Daily English practice example. Here's how to speak with openness in English. Instead of "That's wrong," "I don't need help." "Why do you always correct me?" Say, "I see your point. Thanks for the suggestion. Let me try it that way." Small changes, big results. David didn't become less strong by letting go of defensiveness. He became more human. He started really hearing, the people around him. His relationships softened, his team grew closer, and his own mind felt lighter. Because carrying defensiveness is exhausting. You're always ready to fight, but when you drop that shield, you create space for growth and peace. You don't have to be right all the time. You don't have to prove yourself in every moment. You don't need to defend your every action. You need to stay open. You need to stay curious. You need to stay real. That's where strength lives. In the quiet moment when someone says, "Maybe try it this way," and you smile and say, "Thanks." "I will." You obsess about your problems. Sara lay in bed at night, staring at the ceiling. The room was silent, but her mind was loud. What if I fail again? What if I said the wrong thing today? What if things never get better? What if I never feel okay again? Her thoughts raced like traffic. No traffic lights, no exits, just endless circles. She turned left. She turned right. She looked at the ceiling, at her phone, at the clock. 7 a.m., then 2:41, then 3:10. The only thing that changed was her heartbeat. It beat faster with every "what if." This is overthinking. and you felt it. 2, you try to sleep, but your brain won't let you. You try to focus, but one small worry becomes a storm. You try to stay calm, but your thoughts keep replaying everything that went wrong. You say things like, I can't stop thinking about it. What if I made a mistake? What if something bad happens? You replay the past. You predict the future. You forget how to live in the now. But why do we do this? Because somewhere inside, your brain believes, if I think harder, I'll feel safer. But thinking harder doesn't lead to safety. It leads to spirals. You imagine all the bad things that might happen. You go through every detail again and again. You try to solve everything at 2 in the morning. But there's a problem. You're using your mind when what you need is rest. Sarah's story. Continued. Sara wasn't lazy. She wasn't careless. She wasn't weak. She was just scared and tired. Life had been heavy lately. She had lost a job, had a friendship fall apart, was unsure about her future, and because she was always strong on the outside, she never gave herself permission to break on the inside. So at night, when the world got quiet, the thoughts got loud, because that's when the mind screams for attention. One morning, everything shifted. Sara sat in the kitchen with her grandmother. The light from the window touched the floor like soft gold. The smell of warm tea filled the air. Everything looked calm, but inside, Sara was breaking. She sighed and said, I don't know how to stop thinking. My brain won't let me rest. Her grandmother smiled gently, then said something simple. You're trying to solve everything in your head, but peace doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from acting softer. Sara blinked. What does that mean? Her grandmother continued. You carry everything all the time. You never let anything go. You keep solving tomorrow while ignoring today. That's not strength, dear. That's pressure. The power of small action. That morning, Sara tried something different. She took out a notebook, and instead of writing a long list of worries, she wrote one question. What can I do today? Just today. Not this week, not this year, not forever. Today. Her answers were small. Drink water, take a walk, call someone who cares, write down one. Good thing, sometimes her answers were bigger. Apply for a job, set a boundary, forgive someone, including herself. But here's what changed. She stopped feeding fear and started feeding focus. Why overthinking feels so real? The mind is a powerful machine, but it can't always tell the difference between a real threat and a rehearsed thought. So every time you replay a bad memory, your body reacts like it's happening again. Your heart races, your hands sweat, your mind screams, danger! But there's no danger, there's just overthinking. And the more you think, the less you live. Common signs of thought. Spirals. You might be stuck in obsessive thinking if you rehearse conversations in your head again and again. Regret things that are already done. Predict future. Disasters that haven't happened. Ask yourself, what if? 50 times a day. Feel tired from your own thoughts. Sound familiar? Then listen closely. You're not going crazy. You're just tired, and you need to give your mind a rest. Practical. Tools. When you can't stop thinking, here are some tools you can gently use. 5, 2, 4, 3, 2, 1. Grounding exercise. Look around and name things you see, 4 things you can touch, things you hear, things you can smell, thing you can taste. It brings your mind back to the present. Replace what if with what is instead of what. If I mess up, say, what is true right now? 3. Write a worry time journal. Set 10 minutes a day to write your worries. After that, no more thinking about them. Move your body. Even a short walk can release the storm inside. Ask one question. What can I do just today? Real-life example. English learner version. I once met a learner named Tui. She wanted to improve her speaking, but never practiced. Why? Because she was always thinking, what if I say the wrong word? What if people laugh? What if I sound stupid? She obsessed over the fear, the grammar, the pronunciation, but never took action. Until one day, I asked her, can you say just one sentence today, even if it's not perfect? She nodded. That day she said just 3 words to her teacher, I need help. And everything began to change, not because she fixed everything, but because she took one small step. And that's where progress begins. Mindset reminder overthinking keeps you in a cage. Action gives you the key. Even one step, one message, one breath, one smile can melt the ice your thoughts have built. You don't need to solve everything, you just need to move 1 inch forward. Reframe your inner dialogue instead of, what if it goes wrong? Say, what if it goes right? Instead of, I need to fix everything now. Say, I can handle one thing at a time. Instead of, I'm too overwhelmed to begin. Say, beginning is what breaks the overwhelm. Sara didn't become free in one night, but she became aware, and awareness is where change begins. Now when her thoughts start racing, she does something simple. She steps outside. She breathes. She touches a leaf. She whispers, I'm not in danger. I'm just thinking too much. And I can choose a different path. And so can you, if your mind feels like a storm. If your nights are filled with what-ifs. If your days feel heavy from thoughts you can't control. Remember, you are not your thoughts. You are the one who hears them, and you have the power to change them. One breath at a time. Steps to transform a weak mindset into a strong one. 1. Stop apologizing for your existence. You are allowed to be here. You are allowed to speak, to think, to feel, to take up space. You don't need to shrink yourself to be loved. You don't need to say sorry just for breathing. Instead of, sorry I'm late, try, thank you for waiting. Instead of, sorry I don't understand. Say, could you help me understand better? Every time you say thank you instead of sorry, you tell your brain, I matter, I belong, I am enough, and eventually, you believe it. Take one small social risk. You don't have to go to a party. You don't have to speak on stage. You just need to show up. Once. Say yes to lunch, reply to a message, walk into the room, join the call, sit at the table. Courage isn't loud. It's not dramatic. Courage is that quiet decision to stop hiding. Even if you sit silently, you still showed up, and showing up is the beginning of becoming. Turn down the volume of your critics. Not every voice deserves your energy. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Some people will misunderstand you. Some will criticize you. Some will mock you, and not because you're wrong, but because they are uncomfortable with your light. Let them talk. You're not here to impress strangers. You're here to live a life that feels true. Protect your joy. Protect your gift. Protect your peace. You don't need everyone to clap. You just need to keep dancing. Welcome feedback. Without fear. Feedback is not an attack. It's an invitation to grow, to adjust, to improve. When someone says, Here's another. Way to try it. You can say, "Thank you for showing me. You're not weak if you need help. You're not broken if you're still learning. Every strong person you admire once stood where you are. Unsure, open, growing. So let your guard down, not to lose power, but to gain connection. Act instead of overthinking. Your mind will try to scare you with thoughts like, what if it fails? What if they laugh? What if I make a mistake? And the best response is not more thinking. The best response is movement. Send the message. Ask the question. Take the walk. Try the first step. Overthinking keeps you frozen. Action melts the ice. You don't need to solve everything right now. You just need to take one breath and move 1 inch forward. Speak kindly to yourself. Imagine if someone followed you all day and whispered, "You're stupid. You're not enough. Everyone's better than you." You'd call that person abusive, right? But sometimes that person is you. Your inner voice shapes your entire experience, so shift it. Instead of, "I'm a failure," say, "I'm still learning." Instead of, "I never do anything right," say, "I'm trying." That matters. Be the person who lifts you up, especially when no one else does. Forgive yourself when you fall. You will mess up. You will make poor decisions. You will say things you regret. That doesn't mean you're a failure. It means you're alive. The goal is not perfection. The goal is progress. So when you fall, don't punish yourself. Pause, breathe, learn, and rise again, again, and again, and again. Strength isn't about never falling. It's about always choosing to stand again. Be patient with your process. You don't build confidence in one day. You don't heal overnight. You don't go from fearful to fearless in one step. You grow in layers, like a tree, like a home, like a life. So if you're not where you want to be yet, that's okay. Keep planting, keep watering, keep showing up. It's not about how fast you grow. It's about how real your roots are. Surround yourself with the right energy. You are not just shaped by your willpower. You are shaped by your environment. Look around. Do your friends lift you up or tear you down? Does your news feed inspire or drain you? Do the voices around you help you grow? You can't always control the world, but you can choose the people, books, and spaces you walk into. Choose voices that remind you you are strong, you are healing, you are becoming. 10. Believe you can change. This is where it all begins, not with talent, not with luck, not with perfect timing. It begins with belief. The moment you say, "I don't want to live like this anymore," everything shifts. Because belief is a door. Once it opens, your life begins to follow. So whisper it to yourself tonight. I can change. I can grow. I can become the strongest version of me. And then take one step. That's how the story turns. A weak mindset isn't a curse. It's not a flaw. It's not a shameful secret. It's a beginning. It's the first chapter of a transformation you didn't even know was coming. Because when you finally say, "I don't want to live like this anymore," a new version of you begins to rise. Not perfect. Not fearless. Just aware. Aware of your patterns. Aware of your thoughts. Aware of your possibilities. And that awareness, that's where power lives. Maybe you saw yourself in Hana, apologizing for things you didn't even do. Maybe you saw yourself in Ben, avoiding connection because fear whispered you didn't belong. Maybe you saw yourself in Sofia, letting one harsh voice silence your joy. Maybe you saw yourself in David, getting defensive because you feared being wrong, or in Sara, lying in bed at night, drowning in what-ifs. And maybe you're tired of carrying it all. Good, because tired means you're ready to drop the mask, ready to challenge the fear, ready to speak without apology, ready to walk into the room, ready to grow into someone strong, not because you never hurt, but because you keep healing. You don't have to fix everything tonight. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need to be bold or brilliant or perfect. You just need to decide, I deserve more than this, and then take one step. That's how change begins. So if this episode made you pause, made you think, made you feel like someone finally understood you, then don't stop here. Speak differently, think differently, act gently, forgive deeply, and, most of all, believe. Believe that you can rise above your old patterns. Believe that your mindset can shift. Believe that your story is still being written, because it is. You are not stuck. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are awakening. You are unfolding. You are becoming. And that is beautiful. Thank you for listening to this episode of Daily English Podcast. If it helped you, please share it with someone who needs to hear these words too. And remember, speak softly, live fully, grow boldly. You don't need to rush your strength. You're already on your way. Until next time, stay kind to yourself. Stay patient with your process. And never forget, you've got this.